everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Taboo Talk. My name is Ayla, and today I will be your host. So, I know for some of you, there might be some topics that you feel awkward or uncomfortable when you talk about, so that's why we created Taboo Talk. Is a safe space where we can discuss about these topics and, more important, learn from them. If you didn't know, October is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and that's why we have here our very first special guest, Aisha. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Good morning, my name is Aisha Lewis and I'm the university's victim advocate. Thank you for having me, Ida.
No, thank you so much for joining us. It's our first episode, so I'm glad you're here. So, to start, I would love your personal perspective. Like, why do you think that awareness is important, domestic violence awareness?
It's important because there are many people who are suffering in silence and may not realize that help is available. Domestic violence and dating violence is very, very widespread. It has impacts to the victim, their families, their jobs, the community, our university campus. And, if people are not aware that it's going on and not aware of the things that they can do to intervene and support, then it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's like one little issue that actually can affect like your other areas in life.
Yes.
And why does this topic matter to you, like personally?
It matters to me because as a victim advocate, I understand the impact that trauma can have on people, not only the people who are the direct victims, but the people who witness it, especially with regard to intimate partner violence. There's children in the homes, there's families who are impacted, and sometimes the difference between someone seeking help and finding a better situation and staying in that situation could just be knowing that there's somebody there that can assist them. So my job is to make sure that people are aware that there is support out there and that they don't have to suffer alone.
Yes, no, I agree with you. Like, especially when you're going through a lot, sometimes you get like close to people that but like you don't know how to express that. So
Yeah.
having someone to help you to go through the process, I think it's very, like, you're not alone in the process. I think that's a nice feeling to have, especially when you're going through a lot of things.
Yeah.
So now for the listeners who might not be familiar with this topic, what is domestic violence and what forms
Okay,
can you take?
Yeah, domestic violence is abusive behavior that is used by one partner to maintain power and control over another. And a lot of the times people think that domestic violence is limited to physical violence, but there are a wide varieties that people can maintain and wield that power and control. So obviously physical violence is the one that we're most familiar with, but for the university audience, there may be other things that are happening in addition to, or not necessarily in addition to, physical violence. So one that may be familiar with your audience, and I will say that the most common age range for intimate partner abuse is 18 through 24 years of age.
Wow.
So that unfortunately is your target audience. And 30%, 1 in 3 college students experience domestic violence or report domestic violence, and there's a large number who actually don't. Part of the reason is because they may not understand that what they're experiencing is intimate partner violence, which leads me back to your initial question. Physical violence is the form that we're most familiar with, but violence and abuse can be financial. So if someone, let's say, takes your debit card and doesn't, allow you to make purchases, or you have to get their permission to make purchases. Another one is emotional. People are constantly, coercing you. They may force sex. They may force you to do things that you don't want to do. They make you feel obligated because you're in a relationship with them to do things that they don't necessarily want to do, or that you don't necessarily want to do. And then one of the most common that we find is control of your movements. So, I need to know where you are at all times. I need to have your location, and if you're not where you're supposed to be, we're going to have an issue. They control, whether or not you can go out with your friends, and when you're spending time with people who are not them. And even if you do spend time with your friends, they may be texting you, you may have to check in, that sort of thing. Anytime you don't feel as though you have the freedom to operate independently without that person's authority, that could be a red flag. It's not necessarily a sign of abuse, but it could be a red flag.
Wow, I'm actually really surprised, especially with the last thing, the last part you say.
Yeah.
Like when people is like controlling you, because I feel like in our age it can be maybe like our partners or our friends.
Yes.
And yeah, I didn't know that actually that was considered like violence.
Yeah. And one of the myths that people that sometimes people believe is that, you know, that control and this person wanting to know where I am is a form of love.
Yeah.
And it can be, you know, you go somewhere, you want to make sure that the person that you love is safe, but it can venture into controlling. So there's you know, green flags, and then there's yellow flags, and then there's red flags. But if those alarms are tingling and you're doing things and don't want to do, you don't want to do, I don't necessarily want to share my location with this person, but I feel obligated to do it. Again, it's not necessarily abuse, but it could be a red flag that, you know, you may want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I feel that's why the term like toxic relationships
Yes.
comes
Yes.
in place. Yeah.
Exactly.
And well, apart from the victim, who else can be affected? Well, the victim, of course.
Yeah. There's the victim. I like to give scenarios to help people understand and gain a little bit of perspective. The victim is obviously impacted by it, but if you have a friend who's being abused and controlled, it could impact that relationship. If you have a family member who you're seeing less and less of, hearing from less and less, you know, because they're being controlled by someone else, that relationship is impacted. And even on more formal relationships, if you have a coworker who is in an abusive or controlling relationship, you know, if they call out of work frequently, that is going to impact the workplace. So sometimes we tend to think of the worst case scenario, you know, violence breaking out in our workplaces, but it could be as simple as your coworker who's missing work frequently, and that's going to impact, you know, you and the rest of your peers because that person is dealing with abuse.
Yeah.
So it has a reach far beyond that of the person who's actually being physically or emotionally controlled.
Yeah. And how does it shows up? Like in schools, like in relationships?
Yeah, we've kind of discussed, but I'll expand on it. I find that peer networks or peer groups can sometimes suffer if one or more people are in an abusive relationship, because it can be hard to witness. You know, your friend being controlled, especially if they're not fully aware yet that they're being controlled. Some of us, you know, understand these things a little bit better, like, you know, me, I'm a victim advocate, or
Yeah.
someone who's one of our peer health educators may be a little bit more savvy at picking up those red flags. Because one thing that I've noticed is that we sometimes tend to normalize behaviors that should not be normalized. And so, you know, sometimes there's a myth, again, that, you know, this person who is actually controlling you is only doing it because they love you. So, you know, if you have a friend network or a friend group and someone is being controlled, it may be difficult for you to approach that topic with your friend, because who wants to tell their friend, you know, I think your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whomever it is abusive. So sometimes, and then on the part of the victim, a lot of the times victims don't want to, quote unquote, bother other people with their problems. You know, they feel as though this is just a path. Relationships, you know, have their ups and downs, and they're attributing abuse to being a down, when really it should be, it may be something that requires intervention. So you may have people who are suffering in silence, who don't necessarily want to trouble their friends with their issues. So a lot of the times it can impact that way. If students are experiencing anxiety and depression as a result of the control that's being exerted of them, are they going to be the best, most productive students that they can be? So not necessarily. So you may have professors who have students who are missing classes, who are failing or struggling where before they were not. These can be signs that something is occurring.
Yeah. No, that's crazy, because like in a normal life you have so many like people around that can notice like small details.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes like the victim yeah, doesn't want to open up, or maybe they don't see it like in that way. And as a friend, sometimes to take that approach can be, sometimes you don't know how to approach that person.
Exactly. And we can talk about that.
Yeah.
We can talk about some tips to, how you can support people who you feel may be abused or in a controlling relationship. One of the things that you can do is simply to just remain present and be there. Sometimes just having someone that you can have a conversation with, that's not going to judge you, who's not going to try to tell you what it is you should do, who's not going to be yet another person who's trying to control you, can be the difference between, seeking help from that person or seeking help from another person, or continuing to suffer in silence. So another thing that you can do to support, a peer or a friend who may be dealing with controlling behavior, abusive behavior, is being knowledgeable about the different resources that are available. So FGCU has so many different resources to support not only students who are in abusive relationships, but who also may be struggling in other areas. So sometimes as a friend, just knowing that there is a victim advocate, who can assist you, or that there's CAPS that you can go and talk to somebody without judgment who can help you with that, could be the difference between someone seeking help and not seeking help.
Yeah, no, that's very good to know. It's my first semester here at FGCU, and I didn't know that the campus actually offer like different resources that can help you. And yeah, it can be in this area, like even like if you're having like financial issues too. I think that's great, and I don't know if all the students know that we actually offer this help. I
can tell you they don't.
Yeah.
I speak with students all the time, and when I approach, when I speak with students, the approach that I take is holistic. So they may come to talk about a specific thing, but I will ask them, I will kind of gauge and probe to see if they're okay in other aspects of their life. So, if they come to talk to me about this specific relationship issue or intimate partner violence or sexual assault, I will also work into the conversation how they feel in terms of their physical safety, how they're doing with their classes, if they are food secure, do you have enough money to make sure that you have the personal items that you need? If not, did you know that Student Care Services can assist you? Did you know that, you have counseling through CAPS that your tuition and fees are already paying for? One that I find is that people assume that our food pantry just has ramen noodles and canned soup. And there's so much that's available out there to support students. And it only takes a simple conversation to introduce them to all of the different resources and support that are here to help them.
So yeah, my question was, for example, let's play like any scenario. Like I'm a student and I'm having issues. I want to talk with someone. Like how will be the process like for the first step?
I have referrals from different campus partners.
Okay.
I work very closely with OIEC, with CAPS. I try to make sure that, all of the campus partners are aware that I exist.
Yeah.
And even if they can't give students the full spectrum of what I offer, they know enough to say, here's someone that you can have a conversation with, and she can connect you with other people that may assist you. So I have a Calendly link where students can schedule an appointment. They can stop by Cohen 161 anytime. I have a philosophy and open door policy.
Okay.
So unless I'm meeting with a student, if a student needs me, I will make myself available. So, I do accept drop-ins, I accept appointments, I accept referrals. I've had students that I've assisted in the past come and bring other students back to me. So any way that I can get them in the door to have that conversation works for me. So yeah, I'm available if a student wants to call, if they want to email. Now I will caution with email, and I let students that I work with know, don't put anything sensitive in email.
Yeah.
If you want to have a conversation with me, if you want to initiate it via email, you can just give me a safe telephone number and I'll give a call or let you know how to come in and speak with me face to face.
Okay, that's good to hear, like you're always available.
Yeah.
Especially, because you don't know, like, the moment that you're gonna feel like, yeah, actually I need to take this step.
And that's the thing, you know, you never know if you're gonna get another bite at that apple, so I never wanna turn a student away because I understand that sometimes it takes courage to make that first attempt. So, you know, I try to make sure that I'm available to capture that moment when it's available.
Yeah. And what about, like, do you offer some like workshops through semester? How does that work?
I present to anyone who wants to speak with me. So I have presented to classes, I've presented to faculty, staff, student groups. I presented just last evening to the student government senators. So I presented this morning and spoke with our peer health educators. So if there is a class where, you know, someone thinks that this information will be beneficial, or, you know, a student group, an RSO, I can customize a presentation for that specific event or request. You know, I try to make myself available because we started this conversation talking about how people suffer in silence and may not be aware, so awareness is key.
Yeah, I know, I agree. For the students out there, you know, we have great sources. We have Aisha that know, you know, a little bit more about her. Don't be nervous, just like reach out, like there's people that really want to help you. Aisha, what message would you give to someone that is currently through this situation?
You don't have to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
You know, there are resources. I'm here, and you know, I'm happy to connect students with others who may need assistance or who may be able to offer assistance. There's no request that is silly. There's no request that is unnecessary. I understand that it may be, it may not be ideal. You know, you're sharing with a complete stranger and being very vulnerable about these things that, you know, no one should have to experience. But you don't have to experience it alone. And also, there's not going to be pressure to act. You know, this is just a conversation. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times people may be fearful that if I go and speak with the victim advocate or OIEC or Student Care Services or any of these other wonderful resources and supports, that they're going to force me to take action. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We're here to listen, to identify what the needs are. I start off conversations with students and ask them what it is they need. So instead of just saying, here's everything that I do, here's how I can help you, I first try to gauge what their need is. And then we have a conversation that spins from that, because until I know what it is they need, you know, I'm not going to know how to properly connect them. And I don't want to make assumptions and say, here's what you can do. I'm not a doctor, I'm not writing a prescription. You know, I want to help them the way that they want to be helped. And, you know, we just have a conversation. When students meet with me that initial time, I let them know from the beginning, it's just a conversation. I'll let you know, what I can do to assist and support you. You let me know what it is you need. And there's no obligation, you know, for them to even take advantage of anything. Sometimes people just want to know what's out there and make an informed decision. So, you know, if you are a victim of intimate partner violence, if you are not sure, there may be some red flags and you just want to have a conversation, my office is always open, and there's not ever going to be obligation for anybody to take any action that they don't want to take. I believe the last statistic was that it takes an average of 7 times, or it can take an average of up to 7 times for a victim to leave an intimate partner violence relationship. So there's not going to be the expectation that you're going to walk into my office and everything is going to be resolved in that first visit. Again, it's just a conversation so that students can understand the support and resources that are available to them.
No, I agree, and I like what you say, because sometimes even just like to speaking out loud, like you know, like talking with someone, you're actually realizing that this is actually like happening to you.
Yeah.
And you start thinking like in other way, like maybe you see that it's not very small, that it's actually like an issue that you have to talk or like deal with.
Yes.
And yeah, sometimes it can be I can feel, well, in my case, I can be feeling like intimidating, like going to the office and like making like to be more formal.
Yeah, like you said, it's a thing. It's a real formal thing. So I try to make it just a comfortable conversation. Yeah. And, you know, at the end of that conversation, hopefully, you know, that the person will feel a little bit more comfortable and informed.
Yeah.
I want students to come away understanding the support and resources that are available so that they can make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Aisha, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we have a conversation, and I learned a lot of stuff being a student, and things that I can support that it's here on campus. And it's not always because I'm not super familiar with the topic,
Mm-hmm.
but of course I've heard and I know. But the first thing that comes into my mind when I think about domestic violence awareness is more violence and stuff like that. But actually, there, as you mentioned at the beginning, there are so many other examples,
Yes.
and sometimes we don't realize or nowadays we live our days goes it's super fast,
Yeah.
and we don't have the time to think that actually I'm going through this. I think I need to stop and think and overthink what's happening, and
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to define it as domestic violence. Sometimes if you're just feeling in your gut that something is
Yeah.
not right, and you just want to have a conversation about it, it can start there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're intimidated by definitions and qualifications and that sort of thing, when really you just need to speak with someone about something that does not feel right. And, if you take that approach, it's a little
Yeah.
bit less intimidating.
maybe would you recommend to meditate and I don't know, to have a
Oh, self-care
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
key. Self-care is critical, self-care is crucial, and safety is the number one priority.
Mhm.
And that's another reason it's important to not force people who may be, victims of intimate partner violence or other types of power and control dynamics to make a decision, because their safety is paramount. They know what it is going to take to keep them safe. So sometimes trying to force something that they may not be ready for could put them in a more dangerous situation.
Mhm.
So as people, if you consider yourself a person who wants to support and advocate, the number one thing that you can do is listen
Yeah.
and, ask how you can support. Thank them for trusting you with that information, because it is difficult to have that conversation, and just let them know that you're going to be there to support them and not force them to do anything, because sometimes we can do that. We can say,
Yeah.
I think it's in your best interest if you do X, Y, and Z, and now you become yet another person who's trying to control what it is they do.
Mhm.
So, lead them to the resources, let them know that there is support, and, be there for them when they're ready to make that decision.
Yeah. I feel support is equal, just to listen, to active listening.
Yeah.
And how can it help? Well, Aisha, thank you so much for joining us today. I really have a great conversation. I think I have learned a lot, and thank you for sharing your insights and very useful tools that we can use here at the campus resources.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for everyone behind the screen. We're gonna see you in another episode in Taboo Talk.